just a few moments to lay a little bit of groundwork for you concerning today's gospel reading. If you would have read the section just before the reading for today, you would have found that Jesus and his disciples had gotten into a boat and started across the lake. And that Jesus was exhausted. He'd been making home visits and hospital visits and teaching and healing and coming up against the Pharisees. And he needed a power nap. So he curled up in the floor of the boat and went to sleep. And as he was sleeping, a howling gale rushed in and across the lake. And the boat was taking on water, and the disciples were bailing as fast as they could, but it was a losing battle. For every pot of water they threw out of the boat, 4 pots splashed in. And they couldn't stand it any longer, and they cried out, "Master, Master, wake up, we are perishing." And you know the rest of the story. Jesus got up from his power nap, rebuked the wind and the waves, and there was calm. And they sailed on and reached the country of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. You see, Jesus has moved into a foreign country. The Gerasenes country, being opposite Galilee, is the Gentile side of the lake. Okay? It's the Gentile side. And the man he encounters there, possessed by demons, is almost certainly a Gentile. But even if he isn't, his demon possession and living among the dead has rendered him ritually unclean. I don't know whether you caught it or not in the reading this morning, but this guy lives like an animal. He's naked, he's unclothed, he's dirty, and he's outside. He's even chained and shackled like a wild animal. But he breaks his bonds and he's driven into the wilderness by the demons called Legion. And his possession is so great that it has completely taken over his mind and his personality. And this is precisely the result when we are also possessed with a legion of all-consuming desires. Our minds and entire personalities are twisted as we recklessly and ravenously seek to gratify those desires. A near miss on the Sea of Galilee and demon possession brings to mind another boat which wasn't so fortunate. The Titanic was sailing on a placid sea when it struck an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. on Saturday, April 14, 1912, and it sank early Sunday morning. At the time, the Titanic was the largest moving object in the world. Hear that? At that time, it was the largest moving object in the world. It was 882.5 feet long, and it was 93 feet wide. And the ship weighed 103,774,720 pounds. It was virtually, for its day, a floating city. Those of you who've been on the big cruise liners know what I'm talking about. It was virtually a floating city. But of course, the Titanic is most remembered for being a $10 million casket. More than 1,500 people died in the sinking. and only 705 were rescued. And the primary reason for this high number of casualties was the fact that there were only enough lifeboats for about half the 2,200 passengers. Only about half of them stood a chance of even being saved. There was a little research shows that there was a glaring discrepancy between the survival rates of the first versus third cabin passengers. The more you paid, the more likely you were to survive. 66% of the first cabin passengers lived, compared with 44% of second cabin passengers and only 25% of the steerage passengers. Now the cooks, the dishwashers, the waiters, the cabin boys, including 2/3 of the children booked in steerage, suffered even worse. And while the Titanic was happy to carry second and third class passengers and take their money, she was clearly a ship that was built to accommodate those living the most luxurious, privileged lifestyles. She catered to the very rich, meeting all of their possible needs, including their need to survive any potential shipboard disaster. After the Titanic disaster, there was a tremendous backlash against the inequality of accommodations, the ranking of some persons over others. Everyone began to be lumped into one category of traveler, tourist class. At first, the pride in the technological that had led pundits to dub the Titanic unsinkable would appear to have suffered as much fatal damage as the ship itself. It was believed by those who built it and those who owned it and those who sailed on it, because it was such a technological feat of its age, that the ship was unsinkable. The Titanic swiftly became a favorite preaching topic. Its story, a 20th century replay of the fall. Clergy were the first to interpret the meaning of the Titanic as condemnation of the demon of materialism. And it was, quoting a pastor, he said it was a huge ocean joyride, said Reverend James O'May, a Methodist preacher, and it ended where joyrides generally do. End of quote. The ship's loss was also viewed as a prime topic for a sermon on the demon of pride. But after 104 years, folks, these sermons seem to have lost their sting. The sermons that were preached on this tragedy of the Titanic. In postmodern culture, we're beginning to see a real return to the old class systems that divided the Titanic passengers into the treasured upper class and the expendable steerage class. And despite a whole century of notable technological disasters, in Hindenburg, Hiroshima, Nagasaki, Challenger, Chernobyl, our never satiated longing for never seen before technological toys remains undiminished. Instead of bigger, of course, the trend now is toward smaller. It's the miracle of the microchip, not the power of giant steel mills and taller turbines that fascinates us now. We move beyond the industrial age. And the newest technology is probably sitting in your study, or on your child's desk, or hidden under the hood of your car, or on your wrist, or in the palm of your hand. The power of the microchip is the power of wealth and information. Our materialism has transformed into informationalism. but it's the same deal. I don't want you to hear this morning a yearning for the good old days. I don't want you to hear that. Because that isn't what it's about. In the good old days, I would have died at the age of 9 from appendicitis. I'm not yearning for the good old days. Okay? And if it hadn't been from appendicitis 49 years later, which would have made me, no, it'd be 46 years later, which would have made me 49 years later. Sorry. I would have been dead from pulmonary emboli in the good old days. If I'd have lived that long, because I'd have been 58, many people didn't live to be 58 in the good old days. So this isn't about the good old days, but I was thinking about in medicine and what technological advances there were in medicine, and I came across this the other day, and I thought I'd share with you. In John Wesley's day, English doctors, back in the good old days, okay? English doctors treated the pain of toothaches by filling the cavities with smashed ladybugs. And it worked. You no longer thought about the pain in your tooth. All you thought about was a mouthful of smashed bugs. That's the good old days. I don't want it for the good old days. Technological advances in and of themselves aren't evil. The internet is not the abyss. Your email address is not the mark of the beast. God calls us forward into a new future and challenges us in new and exciting ways of experiencing our world and exploring our universe. But even as we enhance our lives with the exciting toys of this new world, we must keep in mind what was essentially the Titanic's greatest and most fatal flaw. Her builders were so convinced of her unsinkability, her owners so determined to make her nothing but luxurious, that the Titanic was equipped with too few lifeboats. Think about it. I just happened to look over here today. I didn't know whether they planned this or not, but I just happened to notice it here this morning. Unadorned, low-tech, back to basics, as simple lifeboats were, they became the key to survival for all of the Titanic's passengers. Rich or poor, learned or simple, young or old, if you didn't have a seat on a lifeboat, you didn't survive the icy grasp of the North Atlantic waters. If you didn't have a seat on one of these, you were doomed. To escape the Gerasene syndrome, being possessed by our possessions, to safely navigate our way through entombing entanglements and enticements of this information age, we must keep our own simple back-to-basics lifeboat always close at hand. And what is that lifeboat? Our lifeboat is constructed of the rough, splintered, blood-stained wood of the cross. That's what our lifeboat is constructed out of. And only by keeping afloat in our faith in Jesus' redemptive love and sacrifice can we escape the demons of materialism and informationalism and navigate the uncharted waters of the 21st century. Is your ship headed for disaster? Do you sometimes feel like you're sinking and there's no hope? Or do you hold on to the old rugged cross? I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I'm about to go under. I do. And I bet some of you do too. And then I remember Jesus. Sometimes even in remembering Jesus, I still feel like I'm on that. Feel that way this morning? There's an opportunity to help. You can do it back there, but you can do it here too. And share those demons that seem to be overwhelming you at the moment with the Lord.